Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Investigators are reportedly focusing on something many people cannot see. Not a witness standing on a street corner. Not a vehicle captured in a single photograph. Not a confession. Instead, they may be searching through enormous amounts of digital evidence, surveillance footage, purchase records, cell phone data, and forensic testing results. And that raises a very important question. Could the answer to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance already exist inside a computer database somewhere? Could a piece of DNA, a forgotten receipt, a surveillance camera, or even new technology reveal the one clue investigators have been searching for? Or are detectives still waiting for that one missing piece that finally connects everything together? Those questions have become increasingly important as Nancy's case moves further away from the day she disappeared. For Nancy's family, every day without answers feels like an eternity. For investigators, every day creates both opportunities and challenges. And for the public, the mystery remains as frustrating as ever. When most people think about criminal investigations, they often picture detectives interviewing witnesses or searching crime scenes. Those things certainly happen. But modern investigations have changed dramatically. Picture a large room filled with computer screens. One screen displays surveillance footage from a neighborhood intersection. Another contains phone records. A third shows vehicle movements. A fourth displays maps covered with timelines and investigative notes. In many major investigations today, detectives spend just as much time examining digital evidence as they do conducting interviews. That appears especially important in a case like Nancy Guthrie's. According to investigators, digital evidence and forensic analysis remain significant areas of focus. That tells us something important. This case is still active. And they may believe that technology can help provide answers. But there was another problem. Technology produces enormous amounts of information. Imagine trying to locate a single puzzle piece inside a warehouse filled with millions of other pieces. That is often what modern investigations feel like. Every surveillance camera creates footage. Every smartphone creates data. Every purchase leaves a record. Every vehicle potentially generates information. The challenge is determining which information matters. Picture a surveillance camera mounted above a convenience store entrance. Thousands of people walk through that doorway every week. Most have absolutely nothing to do with an investigation. Now imagine investigators reviewing hundreds or even thousands of hours of footage looking for one vehicle, one person, or one critical moment. That process takes patience. It takes resources. And it takes time. Many people understandably ask why investigators cannot simply use artificial intelligence to solve the problem. The answer is more complicated than it sounds. Artificial intelligence can help organize information. It can help identify patterns. It can compare photographs. It can sort records. But investigators still have to verify every result. A computer might suggest a possible connection. Detectives must determine whether that connection is real. That distinction matters. Because every piece of evidence must eventually stand up to scrutiny. Imagine a courtroom years from now. Investigators cannot simply say a computer identified a suspect. They must explain exactly how evidence was collected, analyzed, preserved, and verified. Every step matters. That is one reason investigations involving large amounts of digital evidence can move slowly. The public often sees silence. Investigators may see thousands of leads requiring careful examination. That wasn't the only possibility investigators were exploring. DNA remains one of the most powerful tools available in modern criminal investigations. Most people have heard stories about decades-old cases being solved through advances in forensic science. Cases that once appeared impossible suddenly produce answers. A single biological sample gets retested. A new database match appears. A previously unknown individual becomes identifiable. Those developments happen more often than many people realize. Picture a laboratory technician sitting beneath bright lights, carefully examining evidence collected months earlier. To most people, that evidence might appear insignificant. A tiny sample. A small trace. Something barely visible. Yet within that material could be information capable of identifying a person. That possibility is one reason investigators place so much importance on preserving evidence. Sometimes evidence collected on day one becomes valuable months or even years later. Technology improves. Testing methods improve. Databases expand. What could not be analyzed yesterday may become useful tomorrow. And that reality gives many families hope. But there was something else people noticed. Even when investigators possess DNA, answers do not always come immediately. DNA can identify a person only if there is something available for comparison. Sometimes investigators already know who the DNA belongs to. Sometimes they do not. Sometimes samples contain contributions from multiple individuals. Sometimes samples are incomplete. The exact details remain unclear in Nancy Guthrie's case, but investigators reportedly continue examining forensic evidence carefully. That suggests they believe it may still provide valuable information. Now think about another type of technology many people overlook. Purchase records. At first glance, a receipt may seem completely unimportant. After all, millions of purchases occur every day. But investigators often view purchases differently. Imagine someone entering a large retail store. They purchase gloves. A flashlight. A backpack. Perhaps other items. Individually, none of those purchases appear suspicious. Together, however, they may tell a story. Investigators frequently examine patterns rather than individual transactions. The timing matters. The location matters. The combination of items matters. That is why modern investigations often involve analysts working alongside detectives. Their job is to identify patterns hidden within enormous amounts of information. Picture a computer screen displaying thousands of transactions. Some belong to ordinary shoppers. Some may deserve closer attention. The challenge is determining which is which. What would you do if you were an investigator facing that amount of information? Where would you begin? Many viewers might assume the answer lies in finding one dramatic clue. In reality, investigations often advance through dozens of small discoveries that gradually create a larger picture. That brings us to surveillance systems. Today, cameras exist almost everywhere. Businesses have cameras. Neighborhoods have cameras. Traffic intersections have cameras. Doorbell cameras have become common throughout many communities. Picture a quiet residential street lined with homes. A surveillance camera mounted above one garage records vehicles passing throughout the night. A doorbell camera across the street captures another angle. A nearby business records traffic entering an intersection. Individually, each camera sees only a small portion of the story. Combined, they may reveal much more. That is why investigators often spend months reviewing footage. Every camera represents another opportunity to establish a timeline. Where was a vehicle? When was it there? Which direction was it traveling? Did it appear elsewhere later? Questions like these may seem simple. Answering them can require hundreds of hours of work. Here's where things became complicated. People often assume that more footage automatically means more answers. Not necessarily. More footage also means more information to process. Investigators must identify ordinary activity before they can recognize unusual activity. A vehicle driving through a neighborhood may appear significant until detectives discover it belongs to a resident. Another vehicle may initially seem unimportant before later becoming relevant. That process requires careful analysis. And mistakes can be costly. Investigators cannot afford to build theories around incomplete information. They must follow evidence wherever it leads. Sometimes that path confirms suspicions. Sometimes it completely changes them. As Nancy Guthrie's case continued attracting national attention, many people began wondering whether technology alone could solve the mystery. The answer is probably no. Technology is a tool. An extremely valuable tool. But still a tool. Human investigators remain essential. Human judgment remains essential. Human decisions remain essential. Technology can identify patterns. Technology can organize information. Technology can reveal possibilities. Investigators must determine what those possibilities mean. That partnership between technology and human analysis often produces the best results. And history has shown that major cases are sometimes solved when those two elements work together. A database identifies a lead. An investigator follows it. A witness confirms something important. Evidence supports the discovery. A breakthrough occurs. But there was another challenge. Technology cannot create information that does not exist. If a witness has never come forward, technology cannot force them to speak. If someone possesses critical information and remains silent, investigators may still face obstacles. That reality brings us back to one of the most important aspects of any investigation. People. Picture a family photograph sitting on a mantel. Nancy smiling alongside loved ones. A moment frozen in time. For her family, technology is important. Evidence is important. Investigative progress is important. But ultimately, the goal remains simple. They want answers. They want Nancy found. And they want to understand what happened. Those goals remain unchanged regardless of how advanced investigative tools become. As investigators continue reviewing evidence, examining records, and exploring new technologies, many followers of the case remain hopeful. Hopeful that a forensic breakthrough could occur. Hopeful that digital evidence could reveal something previously overlooked. Hopeful that surveillance footage could provide another piece of the puzzle. And hopeful that someone who knows something may eventually come forward. Because history has repeatedly shown that cases can change unexpectedly. A new witness appears. A new technology emerges. An old piece of evidence produces new answers. A forgotten detail suddenly becomes important. Sometimes the breakthrough arrives where nobody expected it. Nancy Guthrie's family continues waiting for that moment. Investigators continue searching for it. And the public continues hoping that somewhere inside the evidence, a clue still exists that can finally explain what happened. The question now is whether new technology will help uncover it.